This is 13 ABC Action News at 4 with Tina Williams and Tony Giftis.
The 40-hour work week, it's the American standard, and it's been that way since the Industrial Revolution.
The pandemic has everyone, employees and companies, changing course. There's a push for more flexibility, but how can companies achieve it? Workplace changes are the big story today. Some California lawmakers want to kiss the standard goodbye and cut down the average 9 to 5. There is a bill pending that would redefine what is considered full-time. It calls for a 4-day work week, and if you work more than 32 hours, you would get paid overtime. So the proposal will only apply to companies with more than 500 employees. The idea has some people saying, finally, while others are simply outraged about it.
We're hearing time and time again about greater worker flexibility. That's what workers are demanding. And this provides us an opportunity to reimagine the workforce, uplifting the voice of workers, while also helping to ensure that we can do the type of things in a more efficient manner, and also taking care of our family and our loved ones.
Some companies are taking a different approach. Instead of a push to return to the office, some people may be adapting new business models of letting people come to the office less. We have Frank Dano, a workplace culture expert, with us. So Frank, we know employee recruitment and retention are really important right now. So how do these flexible work options play a part in actually attracting workers?
That's a great question. You know, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, over 47 million Americans quit their jobs voluntarily in 2021. And more recent surveys have come out that said that about half of the workforce is actively looking for new positions. So one of the things that the pandemic did is it showcased the ability for people to see their value, the true worth in the work environment. And some companies are looking for more creative options to create environments where people feel connected or included. One of those that most organizations are thinking about, at least, is the 4-day work week, rather. The ability for their organization to have a 32-hour work week and take Fridays off. What we're finding is that 4-day work weeks are increasingly interesting to employers, and employees are actively looking for environments where they feel a greater sense of inclusion and belonging. And 4-day work weeks may very well be an opportunity for these companies to actually create more value for people looking for different jobs.
Okay, what about the business owner perspective of this whole thing? You know, how do you actually do this, and does it work?
So what you're starting to notice is that if people can jump ship and get a 20%, 40%, or even 60% raise elsewhere, but the environment is terrible and the culture is toxic, employees are choosing to work for companies that offer both. And we believe that when you want to attract and retain employees, it's not just about the perks and benefits like a 4-day work week. It's also about the emotional environment that you're creating. And the pandemic just made everything happen faster. Like, we were already moving in this direction, but now we've realized that the ability to get work done in many cases can be done faster. And what we're starting to recognize throughout the United States and even around the world is that when we start trusting people to do the work that they said they're going to do, they can get it done in a 4-day work week. It's totally possible.
Now, I know a lot of these jobs that we're talking about would be at a corporate level or would be at a company that has the ability to do remote work. Of course, it doesn't apply to everyone here. So how do you balance those feelings of people who might have to be in an office versus those who are not? Or even if you're talking about the hybrid schedule, some people are in, some people are out. How do you deal with that?
I think it depends on a case-by-case basis. You know, the company that you're running, if you're a business owner, or the company that you're working for, you have to make decisions based on what you do. If you're building things, like physical things, and you have to be in an environment, manufacturing environment, where you have to create these things, how can you create a sense of equity between people that are able to do their work from their home and are not able to do their work from their home?
As far as management goes, though, in these larger companies, there tends to be a slower pace, you know, at least at some level, and some pushback to embrace this, as you're talking about. We're seeing a lot of tech companies embrace it. We're seeing a lot of smaller businesses embrace it. But how do we bridge that gap for these, you know, tried and true big businesses that say, no, we have to stick with the old model?
I'd say that most of the time, you as a leader or as a team member are not working with 1,000 people or 100,000 people. You're usually working with a smaller team, a smaller group of folks that you're interacting with on a daily basis. Start there. if you can create an environment where people feel trusted and included and empowered, where you have vulnerability and forgiveness, all these sort of pillars of behavior that unlock high performance, you don't have to have an entire company changing immediately. You can start in smaller pockets. And that's really what we believe, is that when you think of behaviors as the bottom line, you can impact and influence all of the people that you work with immediately, even if you're not the top dog, even if you're in middle management or an up and coming leader. Creating that environment means just behaving in ways that treat people with a sense of humanity. And once you begin to do that, enough small pockets of change start happening, then you actually have a transformed organization that really impacts the bottom line.
All right. Well, Frank, Dana, thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So we asked you at home what you think of these ideas. Would you leave a higher paying job for better hours and more flexibility? So the overwhelming majority right now are saying yes, 85.5% would do that, and the no is 14.5%.
Kind of echoing that sentiment there from Frank. So will we see workspaces diminish? Guess it really depends on who you ask here. Google now preparing to bring employees back into the office, and it is doubling down on office space. The tech company plans to invest $9.5 billion in offices and data centers this year. That's up from more than $7 billion last year. The move comes as many employees are returning to work in an office 3 days a week after 2 years of being fully remote.
Google CEO wrote in a blog post, even with people working in offices less, investing in campuses still helps its product and quality of life for workers. The company plans to open a new office in Atlanta and expand office space in Austin and New York. New research from Stanford University is pointing toward millions of Americans not returning to in-person work. That is roughly 3 million people they believe turned away from in-person work, shopping, and eating out. The dropouts were most likely to be women, people without a college degree, and people working in low-paid sectors.
This study consistently found that at least 10% of respondents had no intention of returning to the workforce, especially if required to do so in person. A quarter of those unwilling to return say pandemic fears are a primary or a secondary factor there. And that is our big story today.